Jessica, it's
Josh,
happening.
can you believe it? We've finally done it. Look at us.
Look it up. We did it.
We did it.
Welcome at long last to the Happy Sad
First of
Confused
all,
podcast. Yes, let's
thank you.
air your beefs. What's going on? What's the problem?
Eves, I was just going to say I'm so happy to see you after this global pandemic that we're still currently living in.
Oh yeah, oh that little thing. Me
Yeah,
too. We're still here.
we're still here.
We're still doing our thing. You're certainly doing your thing, and yeah, a global pandemic can't stop you from.
And it can't stop us.
No, can't stop this train
No.
from going.
No,
I can't believe you've never done the podcast. First of all, I mean, we've talked obviously 1,000 times, but here we are.
no, you finally got me on it.
I finally got you. I mean, I feel like I talked to all your buddies. I talked to McAvoy yesterday. Edgar does the podcast like every other week practically. But you have
Shannon, Mike Shannon.
just caught up with our guy Mike. But you are the main event today. Let's talk Jessica Chastain. You've got a lot going on, my friend. I've been reveling in all the Chastainiac content. I've watched 7 hours of the Chastain the last couple of days. Scenes from a Marriage, fantastic on HBO, and of course, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Shades of 2011, shades of like that year when you had like 18 movies out in 6 months.
There you go. I mean, and
yeah.
Scenes from a Marriage, though, was shot during the pandemic. Isn't that crazy? And Eyes of Tammy Faye was shot in 2019.
Got it. So, well, first of all, let's get, since we have a little time, let's give a little perspective, because I was reminiscing about those early days when you kind of like jumped into the scene head first. And I remember I talked to you, I think the first time was 2011 at Sundance for Take Shelter. As the years go by, do you have like a different perspective on the madness of that year? Does it grow fonder? Does it get more abstract? Like when you think back to that year, what do you think back to now?
Oh, it was like an amazing year. It was the most incredible year. I was so proud of all the work I was doing. I was getting to meet, like, Gary Oldman was walking up to me on the red carpet and telling me he liked my movies. It was insane.
Yeah.
It literally was the year it was like from a play or something. This cannot be reality. So for me, that was a fantastic experience. And also it was the year that I think around that time too, Oscar had Inside Llewyn Davis. So it was like all of my buds and my friends, we were all just kind of around each other and celebrating that life was our careers were starting to happen the way that we had always hoped they would.
What's the biggest change in terms of how you choose roles now? I mean, you can choose roles now. Early on, for any actor, you don't get the luxury of choice, but around then you were starting to get to choose. Your life has changed, circumstances have changed, your experiences have changed. Like, how do you judge scripts and roles differently now than you did then?
I mean, it depends, because I chose Scenes from a Marriage for a very different reason than I chose The Eyes of Tammy Faye. For Scenes from a Marriage, Oscar, like, first of all, he emailed me way before he was even attached, like a year before, and he was like, "Hey, I heard they're doing this. Do you want to, let's try to do it together." And I was like, "Well, I'm booked," because I was supposed to play in London. Right. I supposed to do all this stuff. I was like, "If they'll wait, okay." No one wants to wait. Come on. So, but then when Michelle, fell out, he emailed me and said, "Hey, has a pandemic opened your schedule?"
Has the global catastrophe changed your schedule a little bit? Yeah.
Are you free? And I was, and so that was like a thing of like, I love him. We've been friends for 20 years. We went to school together. Yeah. We have the same way of working. I adored working with him on A Most Violent Year. And when I read it, I was like, oh, this is just going to be, it's like a play, a television series, and a movie. It's like the 3 mediums all in one. So that to me was an easy choice.
Yeah.
And I mean, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, I watched the documentary when I was on the press tour for Zero Dark 30.
Right. So that's a long one. Yeah. That's a long gestation period. Yeah. Needless to say.
And I was like, no one would ever expect Maya from Zero Dark 30 would play Tammy Faye. So I got the rights to the movie before I even had a production company, and then started working on it.
So, okay, let's start with Scenes from a Marriage. You got it. Some of the things I definitely want to talk about. Yeah, it does feel like it's like a karmic turnaround from A Most Violent Year, because as I remember, you kind of went after Oscar on that one when Javier dropped out. Your buddy Michelle Williams was supposed to do this again, as the fates would have it. Like here's a curious thing. I'm just curious, like from an actor's perspective, you're buddies with Michelle. She has to drop out for various reasons. You come in. Do you talk to Michelle about like where she was at with the part, or are you like picking her brain on like what you were going to do with it, or do you start fresh? You would never.
No,
do
that's
that.
too weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to start fresh. But it happens all the time. There's so many parts where like, oh, so and so was going to do this and then they fell out, or I was going to do this and I fell out and so then this person jumps in. It happens all the time and we never talk about it because you don't want the articles out there like, oh, imagine this person doing it, or imagine, oh, if Jessica had done this, and you know, it's awkward, but it literally happens all the time and it goes unreported.
Those sliding doors stories are what I live for. I mean, maybe from your perspective, it's awkward. For me, it's like, I mean, I love the finished product, but I always also like to imagine what might have been. It's all good.
I'll give you one.
Yeah.
Oh, should I give you this?
Oh, you can't tease it like that, Jess. Come on.
Because it for me, it was important. Okay. I got, and I've always wanted to work with him. I love David O. Russell. Love, love, love. We had talked and I got offered American Hustle, the Jennifer Lawrence part.
Got it.
And I wanted to do it. It conflicted with Lee Volman and Miss Julie. And I had been attached to that for a long time and I worship Lee Volman. And so I had to say, like, I'm sorry, there's a conflict and it didn't work out. And, you know, it's a good thing that movie didn't do well.
Nope. Yeah. No Oscar nominations, nothing at all. You're okay. Everyone's okay. And full circle, Lee Volman obviously comes around.
That's why I shared that story. Yeah. Because honestly, she is like a goddess to me and I worship her. And I mean, everything happens for a reason because Jennifer also was way better than I would have ever been in that part.
So I confess, even as a cinephile and someone that consumes a ton of pop culture, I've never seen the original. I admit it now. Scenes from a Marriage, Ingmar Bergman. I know. I need to go back to it.
I don't think you can call yourself a cinephile.
Clearly not. No.
No. Give back your card.
Yeah. So did you talk to Lee after you took on this role and pick her brain a bit, or was that also kind of weird and awkward, or what?
I sent her because I know the thing about Lee, and this is how I took the inspiration of her with me when I played this role. Lee is so incredibly sensitive. It's almost like she doesn't have skin. She's just like raw, childlike, vulnerable. She feels everything. It's beautiful. And as soon as I started, and I even posted on Instagram, I was like, there will only ever be one Marianne. And it was a picture of Lee and I emailed her to know, so she would know, I'm not doing I'm not playing your part. There's only you.
Right.
I'm playing something else. I'm playing Johan, but a modern day version of Johan.
Got it.
And she's incredibly supportive. In fact, she and I are going to do a photo shoot and a little interview in a couple days together. Nice. She loved the series. She's a great inspiration of mine. And I'm so lucky to have her in my life.
So I don't know if this is from the original series or something you guys decided on the fly to do in this one, but there's some really interesting moments of kind of like breaking the fourth wall and showing the behind the scenes stuff throughout, little bits, not a ton, but like enough that really captures kind of what you're saying about your relationship with Oscar, that like, obviously this is such intimate material. It's so raw. It's so profoundly honest. To see you guys, and I don't think usually it's a spoiler to talk about the end scene of a series, but like there's like, you get to see you guys off camera essentially, and to see the bond you two have is really touching, and really like you do see that intimacy both on screen and then in those moments off. How did that come about to capture those moments?
Well, what was crazy is, so I met with a guy about whether or not I would join because it was so last minute, and it was one of the best directors meetings I've ever had. So I was like, yeah, we started rehearsals 3 days later. And we were like in my house, Hagai's house, Oscar's house. It was like the three of us just rehearsing. And I think it was like week 2 of rehearsal, Hagai just said to us, this is so beautiful watching the two of you together. Because we would joke that we were each other's acting coaches. If there was a scene that I didn't get, he would help me through. And he wouldn't tell me how to do it. He would just ask me questions like, why don't you like this? What are you pushing against? And so a guy came to us one day and he goes, I have an idea. I want to show you guys, because whatever this is, the two of you, is it's the reason for the series in some sense, even though it was a last minute chance that we did this together. And so he planned it all out. I mean, the wedding ring at the end, that's all like, I asked my husband's like, use a fake wedding ring. But like me coming on set, taking off my fake husband wedding ring and then putting on Mira's wedding ring, all of that stuff, Hagai had planned out. And then the end, they just said, we're just going to roll the camera and follow you guys. And it literally was just us kind of like saying goodbye to each other.
It's really beautiful. It is, even for a cynic like myself. It's very touching to watch. You know, we've kind of danced around it. I mean, there's not much to really set up for the show. It's kind of like implicit in the title. It is essentially 5 hours chronicling over a number of years this intimate marriage, this relationship through ups and a lot of downs. Talk to me a little bit about. We talked about the Oscar relationship, but like I'm curious, like going back, you knew him from Juilliard, correct? He's one of the cool kids.
He was my boyfriend's. He wasn't the cool kid. Come on. No, my boyfriend from college, he was his friend.
Oh, okay.
Like very good friend. So the great thing about our friendship is I got to see all the sides of Oscar that as a girl you wouldn't normally see because I was hanging out with the boys.
Right.
So I really like know a lot about him.
Did he have the best hair back then, or has that come with age?
Maybe that's come with age. He's got pretty good floppy hair now, right? It's pretty
good.
Impressive. Yeah.
Have you guys, now you are part of an elite club also, you've both been X-Men villains. Have you compared notes? Because I know Oscar loved being under all that makeup for months at a time playing Apocalypse.
Should we talk? Oscar and I definitely have talked about this.
Okay.
Okay.
Not the most fun topic for some certain reasons, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is our situations were very different.
Yes.
My situation, I think, a studio was bought at a certain point. Yes. I didn't even know what my character's name was until I saw the film. What's happening? So yes, it was a interesting thing. But Simon Kinberg, who directed it, is an incredible human being, and I've worked with him again, and I love him.
Everybody loves Simon. No bad words to say there. Is there a commonality among, because beyond Oscar, there are several actors that you return to over the years? McAvoy, Edgar, like you've got these guys that good.
Michael Shannon. Did Michael Shannon tell you what's about to happen? You're getting the scoop right now. I'm going to tell you. Literally, it's a scoop.
Let's hear it.
So, George Jones and Tammy Wynette.
Oh, he's playing George.
He's going to play George Jones. And Mike was in a band before, like he was a singer.
Music is like arguably his first love in some ways. Yeah.
And when we did Take Shelter, I took his CD and put it in the jukebox at the small bar in Ohio. He's was such an amazing singer. So yeah, we're about to go do that. And John Hillcoat's directing all 6 episodes.
Fantastic. Music to my ears. I just chatted with Michael in person, and
he didn't tell you. Wow. I guess he doesn't like you as much as
No, you're my favorite now. But he did, when I mentioned we were going through the filmography and I mentioned how much I still love and admire Take Shelter, I think his reaction was, I don't give a fuck what you think, Josh. And then I knew where I stood with Mike after all these years.
Yeah. He really does care though. He talks about you a lot, actually. You're the screensaver on his phone.
Don't even tease. Don't make fun.
No, I'm not making fun.
We are text buddies now.
You guys are like this.
We've proceeded to texting in our relationship, so I feel like we're really getting closer to matrimony. Don't tell my wife.
Exactly. Careful. Don't tell anyone.
Speaking of marriage, I'm thankful that I watched all 5 episodes with my wife. Our marriage is intact, but there are certain kinds of films and TV that can test a relationship, that can push buttons. And this is one, I think, with a somewhat unsteady relationship. I don't know if this one's gonna be the best tonic for them.
Or it actually is the perfect medicine.
Maybe.
Because it gets you talking, right? Usually unsteady relationships, you're not communicating enough. And so maybe this will be like, you don't feel like that. Oh, they're terrible. You don't feel like that, do you? And the other person's like, yeah.
Or on the spectrum, we're doing great compared to this couple. Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, the first one, when it came out, it inspired a lot. There was like a huge flux of divorces.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh. So what was your idea of marriage based on film and TV when you were growing up? Like, do you remember, like, was there Kramer versus Kramer or War of the Roses?
Oh,
Were those kinds of
love
like things in your mind or what? Or
Honestly, I never wanted to get married. I really like, I'm still like, I know I'm married. I'm super happy. I love my husband, but it was never something I was going to
it seems
do.
like it was a contractual thing you just said. It seems like you just said that.
No, I really do love, I'm happy. I'm married, but I would be equally happy to not be married because for me, it's not about a convention. It's not about like an obligation.
Right.
It just feels like so old fashioned to like do that. And also, especially for women, it doesn't feel like it's the most modern. So don't let your wife hear this, Josh. But it feels like
She's drawing up papers, but right behind the camera.
what's the point, and so reality too, like if someone watches the series and it inspires them to have a divorce, more power to you, because that means you were not in a happy situation. And so I'm all about everyone being free, because when you can love without owning someone, that's real love.
Speaking of super solid marriages, let's talk about the Eyes of Tammy Faye for a little bit.
Okay.
So,
Transition there. Good job.
hey, I've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
So, another amazing performance. Honestly, you killed it in this one. I love Andrew Garfield, always fully
Oh,
credited. I mean,
how good is he? That loves you. He really does.
again, and like both of you guys on paper, I'm apparently a shitting casting agent, but I would never put you guys in the top 10 or 100 to play these roles, and yet you are the only ones out that could have done it. Talk to me about why you said you saw the doc, which is a great doc, by the way. Was that the thing you fell in love with and inspired you from the get-go?
Yeah, I was really inspired by that. It's the Steve Peters interview. That to me, her doing that Steve Peters interview, she brings this guy onto her show. He's gay, he has AIDS. And she says, this is at a time when the government won't talk about AIDS, and they're being, communities are dying, and they're being looked at, people who are suffering with AIDS are being looked at as like lepers, and no one wants to talk to them. And she says, we as Christians are supposed to love everyone, and yet we're so afraid of an AIDS patient that we won't put our arms around them and tell them that we care. And then she's like, I love you, and if I want to put my arms around you. And then she also says, when she asked him about coming out, and he says his mom and dad were sad, but they told him that they loved him no matter what. And she's like, thank God, because we as mom and dads are supposed to love through anything, and that's the way with Jesus. And it was so punk rock.
Oh, yeah.
What she said at that time, because, televangelism, evangelicals were all white men who were dictating a very conservative, exclusive way to the Holy Land.
Yeah. This is the one path. Sorry, this is the only way you can get in.
The only way. And Tammy Faye was like, everyone is deserving of love, and everyone is deserving of God's grace. And it, to me, that's the movie that needed to be told.
It's really striking. I mean, I lived through that stuff. I remember it from a certain perspective, and like watching certain aspects, like for instance, like the montage at a certain point where you see kind of like her being the butt of all the late night comedy. It's pretty profound. It's actually, I had a similar moment recently. I watched the first episode of the new the Ryan Murphy American History, the American Crime for the Monica Lewinsky. There's a whole similar kind of narrative there where you just see just how it was so skewed and how they were just made to be the martyr in a horrible way. Did your opinion of her? Yeah, go ahead. You have something. Yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say, and just so you know, the stuff that's in the film is the stuff that we could get the rights to.
Tip of the iceberg. I'm sure like, oh yeah, because people aren't eager to be like, here, show me being
here's my comedy routine. This is the stuff that I said. So imagine how much stuff is out there, and like the things that they said about this woman, where they were more interested in how much mascara she was wearing on her face than what she was actually saying and doing. Right. And she was never tried, or the US government never found her guilty of anything. Right. And yet her association, because in old-fashioned times, women were owned by men. Her association with her husband made her guilty by association for everything. And the fact that she was taking up too much space, too much makeup, too loud a voice, too big a platform, too loud clothes. She had the fearlessness of a drag queen, and that was very threatening for society and for media.
does you talk about like her presentation as an actor? I mean, you know, you've transformed certainly in different ways on the screen, but maybe never to this extent. I mean, does this give you license to kind of like be even bolder with your choices when you have this artifice kind of over you?
Yeah, I don't think I could be any bolder with any character.
Yeah.
Because like even when you watch the trailer or whatever, you kind of go, that's crazy. Like this performance, Jessica's crazy. And then you Google, because everything's online.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
Google her, you can find the Steve Peters interview on YouTube, and you're like, that's actually her. She sounds like that. Her voice is that high. She's got that Minnesota accent. She's like way out, you know, her clothes, her makeup. She was just, I think she was fabulous, because I feel like some people think it was like she was hiding herself through the makeup. I think she was like expressing herself.
Yeah.
She's like, this is how I feel. This is who I am. And so, yeah, I could be as big as I want, because no matter what, Tammy was always bigger. That was always in my head. I'm kind of like shy. I'm always like wanting to underplay everything. Isabelle Huppert is my acting like idol. I'm like underplay. And with Tammy, it was like, you got to go beyond what you think is normal.
So I asked for some questions from our audience, and one actually alludes to something we're talking about. Sabrina Delorme wanted to know, what's your favorite accent over the years, and what's the hardest one you've had to imitate?
Well, definitely there's two that I repeat, and it's Tammy, because I just love that Minnesota accent. It's just like it, and you know, and her voice is so high and sweet, and it's so folksy. I love it. It took me a long time to let go of it. And also Celia Foote. And it's interesting because both of those characters have a higher pitched voice, and my voice can sit quite low normally. So the fact that I like pitch it up, and there's just like a sweetness to the way they talk. Of course, Celia Foote is more like sensual, you know, but those were the two accents that it was just so fun to do.
So something struck me when I was, you know, I have a moment like this to kind of like do the macro view on the career. When we've talked about so many different kinds of films over the last 10 years, I don't necessarily think, and maybe you could argue The Help, or even in some ways this film, have comedic elements, but you've never done the comedy, Jessica. And I know you to be like a very bright, fun spirit. We've done some very stupid, silly sketches together. Like, are you naturally predisposed to react to dramatic material? Or do you shy away consciously from comedic material? Do people not see you that way? What's the story?
Well, I don't think, I mean, the reality is if you look at the level of scripts, right? I get pretty great scripts that are dramas, sci-fis, like all of those, I get great, right? An A-level comedy script is going to go to Melissa McCarthy and Godspeed. Like, yes, I get it. So I'm like way down on that list in terms of something like that. And for me, I want to kind of go to like where the great scripts are. I'm very happy to play Celia Foote or Tammy Faye, because there's a sense of outrageousness and like silliness that I don't normally get to do. Right. But maybe I don't need to be the lead of a comedy when you have someone like Melissa McCarthy out there.
Right. And where are you at now with, we kind of alluded to the Dark Phoenix situation, which we don't necessarily need to go into deeper detail on, but you've been able to manage for the most part, I think, pretty well, like kind of like doing the big stuff, The Martian, Interstellar, and also staying true to your roots with these like really auteur driven smaller films. That being said, like I know like for years we've talked about, and I talk about with every actor, like where's the superhero role? And it does strike me like Oscar's doing a Marvel superhero, and your buddy from Juilliard, Anthony Mackie, is Captain America. Does it feel like at this point, like, is there a reason? Like, did it just never happen? Will it ever happen?
Villain. Give me a super villain. I don't want to be a superhero, because you're a superhero, you're doing like 10 films.
I see. You want to get in and out.
Like, let me be like really nasty and like really like, that would be fun. But I don't want to sign a 10-year contract.
I get it. Is there like the actors and filmmakers you have worked with are, again, run the gamut. Is there an actor or filmmaker you've talked with the most that for whatever reason just it hasn't happened yet, like the timing hasn't worked out?
I mean, everybody,
I'm sure. But does one jump out that you're like, I can't believe I'm into this career this many years and it still hasn't when the hell are we going to actually step in front of a camera together?
Well, Gary Oldman in some sense, because I mean, he's in Lawless, but we don't have any scenes together.
Right.
And I mean, I got to work with Ava, which was great on we did the Beyonce and Jay-Z video together.
Right.
But like that also to like to get my teeth into something.
Right.
I feel like I've talked to so many filmmakers and we keep like circling each other, but I mean, there's a lot I want to work with, but I want to work with filmmakers who are interested in telling dynamic stories about women. I don't have to be the lead. Like I did 3 weeks on A Most Violent Year, you know, but that is a fucking interesting character, right?
Yeah.
Come on. And so I'm happy to show up for a couple weeks, but just give me something to do.
What about that? Where are you at with, it seems like the production company is firing on all cylinders. You've got guys have a lot going on. What have you learned the most since you launched probably 5 or 6 years ago when you were starting to really get intent on producing? What's been the biggest learning curve, biggest takeaway?
There's always a problem. And also I will say this, this is terrible to say. It's taught me a lot about actors.
Oh, wow.
Because there are situations I'm like, wow, like, especially in terms of schedules or whatever. Now I know I'm like, okay, I have a lot of empathy for producers when we're trying to fit a schedule and someone has to like, okay, I have to be out by this date.
Sure.
That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of empathy now on upcoming projects. Anytime I'm coming onto someone else's film, like, how can I help you make it less stressful? Because I've been in situations where it's like, wow, so this is what the other side is like.
I know there are probably a number of obvious reasons why you started producing. Was part of it just also in the early going, like realizing how important it was to have a seat at the creative table and
Yeah, I mean, it was also to do whatever I could to support. I mean, it was in 2014, I think, is when I started thinking about it. And this idea of when you have more power, you have more say of like writers and directors. You don't usually have final say because that's the financier.
Yeah.
But you can push in a different kind of way. And also in terms of developing stories, for Tammy Faye, it was important for me and because also my company is producing it and because I'm so involved in the development, I didn't want it to be, I didn't want it to be tabloidy and create more trauma. And I read an article where Jessica Hahn was like, I'm so tired of being associated with this and I want it to go away. And I was like, there is no way we should focus on that in our film because also Tammy never met Jessica. And why would we risk re-traumatizing someone?
Sure. And
I think that definitely comes, like if I was the actor saying that, that doesn't have as much pull as the actor's producer saying that.
Where are you at with, I was going to say a fellow cinephile, but I had to turn in my card earlier in this conversation.
You're not a cinephile.
So as one cinephile in this conversation.
Bergman film? Have you seen one Bergman film?
Are you really going to put me on the spot and go there?
That's a no. Wow. Wow, Josh. I thought we were so close.
So too. Well, at least I still have Michael Shannon. You adore film as much as I do, apparently more. It must be, I mean, a lot of the films that I look back on the resume in the current climate, I don't know if they're going to be in theaters in 2021. Does Take Shelter get into a movie theater? Does Tree of Life? Like, where are you at in terms of your pessimism or optimism about the theatrical experience? I'm
100% optimist on everything, and especially for theaters. I mean, before the pandemic, I love going to the movie theater, and I would go, and there would be hardly any people in the theater, right? That's before the pandemic. So what's exciting now is when this is over, if movie theaters become more of a night out, I'm sick of sitting on my couch and watching things at home. And where I can pause and go get a shake or whatever I want, popcorn, whatever I want.
Be the social media influencer that you are.
Exactly. So I'm like sick of that. I'm ready to like go to a dinner and go to a movie theater. I want to get back into society. I want to sit and watch a comedy with a bunch of strangers. I want to, that's what I long for. And so I do feel like this year and a half and possibly 2 years of being denied it. I mean, what you're denied is only going to make your desire stronger in some sense.
Right.
So I think we're going to get back to the movie theater, but in a stronger way than we were before the pandemic.
One film that's still to come, delayed like many, but for various reasons, including global pandemic, is your latest collaboration with Simon, 355. So has that extra time given you guys more time to kind of cook it in the edit room, make it more to your satisfaction? How are you feeling about it? Because this is a big swing, obviously.
It's a big swing because all the actresses on the movie, I mean, we're like the owners of it. We created it, we financed it by, you know, showing up in Cannes and linking arms, and I don't know that anything's ever been done like this. So it's a big swing because it can change the way movies are made, and it can change the idea of artists owning their work. But it doesn't for me because of the pandemic, because who knows how busy the theaters are going to be in January, if people are feeling safe to go or what.
Right.
I'm not saying it like, oh, it has to make this much money to succeed. The fact that we made this movie, if anyone sees it and they like it, it's a big deal. You know, it's a huge deal because it really, it's like shocking. You know, I started in the industry 10 years ago, and the industry I started is so different than the industry that I'm working in now, and it's going to continue to change. But the idea that actresses who, when I started, it was like, oh, these actresses are being thrown away because they're no longer valuable. Well, who's deciding this? Some executive in some office somewhere, when the reality is these, you know, the audience dictates who they want to see. And the audience dictating that made us able to raise the money to make the film. And then that helps the actors and the artists own their work. So for me, it's a huge, huge deal. And
I'm excited to see you pushed to the side where they rightfully belong, Edgar Ramirez and Sebastian Stan, and just have them be the arm candy that they should be.
I'm so excited. I mean, they're so gorgeous in our movie. I have to say, it's really like literally everyone. Like Penelope walks on screen, and you're like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, no, undeniable. I'm sure. I can't wait to check it out. You still texting our buddy Al Pacino? How's the text chain? Yeah, he's good.
He's good. He's I texted him. I mean, no, this was a long time ago, actually, but it's one of the funniest texts and calls I had with him. So I called him on his 80th birthday to wish him a happy birthday. And he was like, and we were all in quarantine. He's like, Jessica, they had a parade outside my house. They had like cars like drive by with people to wish him a happy birthday.
Oh, it's like for like the 6-year-old, like the nephew, like you're like, they all come to little.
I know. He's just like literally the best. Really. He's such a mensch.
He's done the podcast twice over the years, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
This is your first, just saying.
You know what? Don't give me shit. Because I started in the very beginning doing sketches with you before anyone else.
And not only that, you are the very first, I don't know if you even know this, the very first Happy, Sad, Confused photo that was ever taken, you, Jessica.
Thank you. Every time you've asked, except during the pandemic when I was like, the last thing I want to do right now is do any press when I don't have a movie coming out. But every time you've asked, I have been there. I've shown up. I've made sad faces. I've made confused faces. I've gone crazy with McAvoy and Tom Hiddleston for you. I've talked to Al Pacino about you. And listen, I've done finger guns.
I adore you. If it wasn't clear, you're the best.
Oh, wait, what?
What happened?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second. What did you just say?
You want that on the record? I said you're the best, and I adore you, and I'm going to let you go, and I hope to see you in person in the city that never sleeps. You're back home, I take it. You're in New York.
Yeah, by the way, I loved the Ben Lyons catching you in the park.
You can do that next time. Oh, God. It's good to see you, buddy. Have a good one, okay?
Thank you.